Hello and welcome back to the All to Play For podcast. I'm Charlie Horner, and with me once again is Kieran Lawler. How you doing, my friend?
I'm still here.
We're still here. We've just finished recording the Premier League 7th to 20th podcast. Basically, we rambled on for too long, so we thought we'd split it up into two sections, and we'll now tackle the top six.
It's been a long day, Charlie.
It's been a long day. It's going to be juicy this season in terms of, who's going to win the title, but more interestingly, who's going to make that top four, because there's three sides with a lot of uncertainty and they're all desperate to get that fourth spot.
That's the true interest for me this year. Sadly for me, I don't think the title.
I don't think there is going to be.
It's the interesting part. I think the battle for relegation and the battle for top four is going to be the most interesting part of this season, which is a shame. But
I totally agree. So let's kick it off. How do you want to tackle this? Do you want to do this one team at a time? Because in fact, should we? Because I feel like we are going to agree with our top three. Should we go for the top three first?
That's where I was going to go. I feel like the top three is
and then have a little debate later about who's going to get that fourth spot.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, let's start with the reigning champions, Manchester City.
Yes,
yes
indeed.
198 points in 2 seasons. Pep Guardiola coming in and revolutionising that Manchester City side and just taking them to new levels, new heights, breaking almost every record possible. Is it possible to stop them?
Yes.
In terms of, can someone dethrone them? I know it's possible to beat them. A lot of sides have proven that there is a formula to beat them.
Is it possible to stop them? Yes. Is it possible to win the war against them? Like, for example, people can win the battle against Man City, but can they win the war? This season, no. But I do think, for some reason, the counter to beating Man City is going toe for toe with the way they like to play attacking football, which is what Liverpool did last season.
I was going to say the issue with that is you have to be good at it.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, if you get a Burnley going toe to toe with City, it's just going to end up in a bloodbath.
Or you do what Newcastle did last year, which was somehow win.
Yeah,
or unless you're Crystal Palace away from home.
Yeah, that was but obviously they're beatable. Every team is.
But for me this year, I feel they won't have that many slip-ups again. If it was going to be a year for Liverpool, it was last year.
Yeah, I feel like last season was an anomaly for Liverpool. Alright, they were fantastic and they were great in the Champions League and got 97 points. But are they the side with the stamina to go again, with the hunger to go again and get another 97 points? I don't think they are. Whereas Man City have got that relentless desire to go and probably get another 98, 100 points again.
Well, that's the thing. I just feel City's missteps last year. For example, I think overall Liverpool performed better last season in the Premier League in terms of they barely got beat. I think they're the only team in history. Did they lose one game?
Yeah.
They lost one game and came second. I feel City's missteps, for example...
You can't get the points.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm saying. The missteps from City last year, they're getting beat by Crystal Palace at home. They're getting beat by Newcastle away. They'll iron them out this year. I don't think there will be as... The only team, genuinely, that I see beating them this year is Liverpool.
Potentially, yeah.
The only team I see beating them.
Yeah. It's frustrating because we've always said there's one kind of gap in that squad, and it's a cover for Fernandinho. Well, they've gone out and spent £62 million on Rodri, who was one of the standout players in La Liga in that Fernandinho role last season. So Pep Guardiola's brought him in, and he's going to provide competition for Fernandinho and eventually be the long-term replacement. I don't believe it is possible now to improve unless you get a replacement for Vincent Kompany, who's departed. But even then, you've still got you've got Laporte, who you could argue is on the same level as Virgil van Dijk for me.
No.
You've got John Stones, who's competent. You've got Otamendi, who's competent, and this is competent for Manchester City standard. They're very, very good defenders.
I do think you need one top quality Laporte level centre back. I feel
potentially one more.
That is the only spot in that team. Actually, right back as well, because I feel Walker last year, on occasion, I do think they need better. I think Danilo's okay, but I do feel like not this season. I think they're fine this season. I just think
I was going to say long term, but like you say that, but I think there's only 2 better right backs in the league than Kyle Walker. That's Trent and Wan-Bissaka.
Of course, yeah.
So,
but you can always, for example, you can
always improve. I'm not saying that there's an unimprovable side, but in terms of, there's not much you can do without spending top money, which City, for all they do spend, seem reluctant to spend the 100 millions. They don't tend to go above £60 million on a player.
I think City, for as good as they are, this is the thing, we've got to try and pick holes in this, because we can't just say, because literally the only way City can improve from last year is if they go invincibles.
Yeah,
that's the only way. For example, but one thing I'll bring up later after we talk about them a bit more. But again, the only issue I see with this team, the issue has never been creativity. The issue has never been goals. The issue at first was the goalkeeper, which they sorted with Ederson. It's not all along the back four, because I think Laporte is a standout. It's left back is a problem because they had Delph last year who could fill in. He's gone. Mendy is too injury prone. He's never played, I don't think, about 3 months of football straight without getting injured at Man City. And he can post his funny videos because I found the man quite entertaining. But Zinchenko's come in and done a fantastic job. But there may be a point where his inexperience becomes a detriment and he can't quite live up to the big games. Last season we saw him be so consistent. But when you are such a young player, you can't expect to be that consistent the whole time. They have brought in Angelino, which I will mention. Class in the Eredivisie last year. Genuinely class for PSV. But can he make the step up, because he's been there before and they clearly didn't rate him the first time. So they sent him out to PSV, but then they brought him back with a buyback clause. And I do think defensively it's a worry, but because he scores so many goals, does it even matter to them?
That's it. That's the thing. And I think they're going to go again and score another 95 to 100 points. And it's just a case with City. Can they go far in the Champions League? I think that's the only question mark that they want to. I think that's for as much as Pep always says, we just want to win the league. I feel that deep down he's got a burning desire to win that Champions League title with this squad. I feel like he really is enthused about this project at City, potentially as much as he was enthused about the Barcelona project. I feel like if he stays after this season, it will be the longest spell that he's spent at a club.
In my opinion, he has to win the Champions League. He has to.
It doesn't have to. Not in the case of, because I think the Champions League, you've got so many top quality sides going for it, and over, if you get to the final in 90 minutes, you could lose 1-0 to Juventus. You know what I mean?
But there's so much talk about them being the best team in the world. They're yet to get past the quarterfinals since the Pellegrini era.
Yeah.
And we talk about how great they are in every single position, and it may be a bit biased because I'm not the biggest fan of Man City, but how can we go on saying they're the best team? Yes, they walk away with the Premier League, but you also have teams like, for example, no offence, Burnley, Sheffield United in the Premier League, which they can blow away week in, week out. For me, this season, the test for them is that, for me, they have to get to this Champions League final. That is the only missing piece to this project.
Yeah, but I agree with you. They have to. But on if I'm playing devil's advocate, if VAR wasn't in the Champions League, they would have gone past Tottenham. I believe they would have dispatched Ajax, and then it would have been a final against Liverpool. I know that VAR was in the game, and that therefore it's redundant.
I was going to say the correct decision was made. They were correctly eliminated.
Yeah, but the first year that it was introduced, maybe if that was last year, they do get to the final. So that's just me playing devil's advocate. That's
what we've not introduced about the Premier League yet, is the introduction of VAR, and it is.
And I probably shouldn't have mentioned it because I don't want to talk about it because it's going to ruin it. I believe within 2 or 3 years we'll be going. I'm sick of it.
Well, let's not get into that because that is a whole.
It's a whole other debate, and I'm pretty sure throughout the season, during these Thursday team talks, we're going to end up touching on the debate of VAR more than once. So I feel like we should leave that. I do think it's one of them though. For example, with City last year, I feel, for example,
when it was against City fans and it went, or not just City fans, I mean in general fans, when it goes against your team, you're like, oh, VAR sucks. But when if your team scores a 94th minute winner and it got called offside and then it turns out it was onside and you get the...
Yeah, but I suppose it takes away the emotion.
Yeah.
You can't celebrate a goal without...
Right.
But yeah, we'll forget about VAR, and with that, we'll forget about City. They're going to win the league
But as I say,
comfortably, but can they do it in the Champions League? That's the question mark.
as it is Premier League predictions, and we do have to talk about Man City, for me, I'm not going to gauge on, they win the league, because it's like when PSG win the league. Yeah, well, they were expected to win the league.
No, I don't
It's
think
different.
I don't think it's miles different because you've got so many
good teams in this.
teams.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm saying, but for example, when this season comes up, everyone is expecting City to win the league. Bar Liverpool fans, because they'll probably expect them to. But everyone is expecting City to win the league. For me, I'm going to gauge them on how well they do in Europe, because when they've been tested in Europe, I didn't expect them to get knocked out by Tottenham, to be one. But I am interested to see how they match up with them now that they've got Rodri, who I think is a class player.
Yeah. And with that, we'll move on to the runners-up last year, the European champions. Yeah, Liverpool. I feel like we've both got them as runners-up.
Yeah.
Again, a little bit like City. Where do you improve that team without spending an astronomical sum of money? Which do Liverpool want to go out and do that again after the outlay they made last season? I don't know whether they want to do that.
I don't think they will this summer. I don't think they'll sign a single person apart from that Harvey Elliott that they signed the other day.
Yeah, I don't think they need to necessarily.
No.
I really don't. To keep up, like Jurgen Klopp keeps saying, if you want to keep up with the likes of Real Madrid and City and PSG, you have to keep spending money, and Liverpool just aren't in the financial situation to be able to do that. And you look at the team, and all right, I've spoken to a few Liverpool fans on Twitter over the last few days, and they've all been saying we need a backup front three. And what I've said back is, well, look, you've got Shaqiri, Origi, Harry Wilson, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Lallana, Wijnaldum. All of those players can play in those three slots. Surely...
Ryan Kent.
Yeah, Ryan Kent as well. These are all players who can do a job if required. I've seen Liverpool fans write off Divock Origi when he kept doing the title race and he won you the Champions League. Like, how can you be so ungrateful for a player who's contributed so much to a very successful season last year?
When he's come in, he's impressed. It's just it's hard to break into that front three because they are the magical the best front three in the league.
Oh well, okay, that's a debate. That's a debate for another day. I'm not going to get into it.
I do think for Liverpool, as much as we said they don't need to spend, and to be honest, I don't think they do this summer. Next summer, they, as with Man City, Laporte and Van Dijk. I personally think Van Dijk's better. You think they're equal, but it's that other centre back role. I think, for example, Otamendi and Stones are better than Joel Matip. I like Joel Matip. Don't get me wrong, but I think they need another centre back to properly stabilise.
Yeah.
That for me is the only place it could improve.
Yeah, because especially if Van Dijk gets injured.
Exactly.
Van Dijk raises the game of Matip. So if you're losing Van Dijk, you're also losing the added quality that Matip gets from being around Van Dijk as well. So that is potentially an issue. But again, for me, for Liverpool, again, it's probably trying to keep up with Man City, probably not being able to. And just kind of going again in Europe because they seem better set up in tournaments rather than over a 38 game season. The style of football they play is probably more suited to that. So potentially you're looking at a run in the FA Cup. They haven't won the FA Cup since 2006. Essentially the League Cup, they haven't won that since 2012. You know, there's other trophies you can get without going for that elusive Premier League trophy. The
way they play with a high intensity, so keeping that up over a 38 game season is hard considering they're in so many competitions. Well, I like what they did last year. Obviously, people frown upon it. I'd say personally, they sacrificed the league in the FA Cup, the League Cup and the FA Cup, and just went, they're not important to us this year. They, in my opinion, went all out in the Champions League. In my opinion, and I think that's what I'm going to question this year. Is will, for example, Klopp go, we won the European top prize last year. Let's focus solely on the league. Like, Pep says he did last year. I don't think he did. I think he wanted to win the Champions League. He just couldn't. But I think Man City, on the other hand, will they go, we've won the league so many times. Yes, we want to do it a third time like Man United did. But will they go, Europe is so crucial to us that maybe that will leave an opening for Liverpool to take over Man City because they'll be focusing on different. Do you know like
I feel there's a I mean there is a devil's advocate thing that you are playing there. I think it's more likely that I just think it's for me. City are too good. They're just going to run away with it again. I don't think Liverpool can keep up for a second season with how close they were. For me, 97 points is unrealistic for them to do it again. Because if you get an injury to Van Dijk, if you get an injury to Alisson, if you get an injury to Milner, these key components of the side, there aren't the kind of players who, the leaders in the dressing room, if you lose one of those players, the squad players aren't the kind of characters who could step up, in my opinion.
It's so bizarre because last season was such a standout season for Liverpool. Yet I feel people going, oh, well, Salah had a better season last season.
That was a bit odd.
Firmino had a better season last season as well. It was like, so these people aren't having as good seasons, yet they are doing better as a squad.
Yeah.
So it's weird to say, for example, if Salah becomes the player he was 2 seasons ago and scores even more goals, and Firmino comes back and scores even more goals, but Firmino provides much more than goals, don't get me wrong. But if he does that, if Van Dijk's on top form, I personally think they'll come up short, and I am trying to play devil's advocate because I do like Liverpool and not the massive fan of Man City, but I do think it'd be close, but I think City will win it with games to spare.
Yeah, I agree. So that's the top two. That's the title race, if you want to call it that. I don't think it will be. Third, Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, I think this is cemented, to be honest. No, I think...
Yeah, there's a bit of unrest in the Tottenham fan base as well, which I don't understand. I saw it. Did you see it on Twitter?
I saw you. I was going to say, I saw you...
There's an open letter, right? There's a thing that fan bases are writing open letters to owners who are doing a good job. So, like, an open letter to Daniel Levy, we're concerned that we're not making enough signings. You've just signed one of the most coveted, most talented young central midfielders in Europe who Real Madrid and Juventus wanted in Tongai and Ndombele. But you want more. I don't understand.
Do you think it's a bit weird it's come now when they've signed one of the coveted midfielders, but the last 2 transfer windows where they've done no business and done better...
Exactly.
They thought when they'd done no business, they went, oh, well, this is bloody fantastic. And then they start. I think Ndombele is an absolute fantastic signing.
I think we're looking potentially at the signing of the season in terms of the impact that he's going to have on the side that he's signed for.
He's a upgraded Musa Sissoko.
It's the thing. Yeah, I agree, but it's a position that Tottenham have desperately needed to improve in for the last 12 to 18 months.
Yes.
They've needed that controlling, demanding central midfielder.
Yeah.
Because Dembele, when Wanyama's not stepped up to the plate, Eric Dyer's had his injury problems, so there's no one really that's been at that base of the midfield.
Dele Alli's more offensive.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got all these offensive, attacking midfielders, and no one doing the dirty work. And Ndombele is going to be fantastic for that role. And it just makes my blood boil that people are moaning at the hierarchy of the club when you've just been in the Champions League final, when you've just smashed your transfer record. I remember Tottenham as being, like they were in a three team cluster with Villa and Everton to see who could get 5th or 6th. You know what I mean? They would hope that they could get into the Champions League. Never mind get to a Champions League final. There's a real big sense of entitlement in football fans, especially the top 6. Feel that they always deserve more. Well, you don't. It might offend some people. Some people might agree with me, but I feel like it's incredibly fickle to turn on the ownership.
How you can? I'm sorry, Daniel Levy. You've got to remember, you've just moved into a absolute state of the art stadium. Believe it or not, it wasn't cheap. I don't know if you can tell, but it wasn't cheap. And I know this is sound like we're arguing with the fan. A little bit we are, but it wasn't cheap. And then you've gone 2 summers where you haven't signed anyone. Everyone was going, oh, you haven't signed anyone. What are you going to do? They went and did better than they've ever done, and then they've gone and signed a promising, young, talented midfielder. They've signed Jack Clark. Yes, they've let him go back out on loan,
but he's going to develop to be a top player as well.
That's another sign for the future. And then this is the moment where they've decided to go, that's not good enough for us.
Yeah, and you've got one of the best coaches in the world as well. But for me, Tottenham, the good enough, the too good to not be, in that shout for top 4. And they're too good to be in that battle, but they're not good enough to challenge.
No,
the squad isn't deep enough.
They are the definition of third place.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, they're always going to score goals. They've got great players going forward. I really like Dele Alli. I feel like he needs to have another season like he did 2 seasons ago. I think last season he went under the radar a little bit. If Harry Kane can stay fit, then that will be a plus. He needs to have an injury-free season.
It's always a worry with Tottenham when Harry Kane gets injured. Obviously, Heung-Min Son stepped up last year. Fantastic, by the way. I think Heung-Min Son is incredible.
But you've seen Llorente leave. You've seen Vincent Janssen leave.
Exactly.
You've seen
Clinton and G. They've still got him, but he's leaving.
Yeah, he'll leave. They have been playing I think it's an 18-year-old Troy Parrott in
I know of Troy Parrott
pre-season, and he's looked lively. So I feel like Pochettino is bringing another generation of young players through, which again
he does tend to do. To be honest,
that's Pochettino's favourite thing. Yeah. But yeah, 3rd place, and it's just going to be for me. They have to go out and win a trophy. They don't have to, because I'm of the school of football isn't all about trophies. It's about progress.
I think
Tottenham Hotspur have made incredible progress. But if you can go and get to an FA Cup final, a League Cup final,
that was it for me.
Then surely that's what the fan base is crying out for.
That was literally.
And it would crown off Pochettino's reign perfectly, because I don't think he'll be there next season. I feel like this will be his last season. And if he can crown it off with an FA Cup title, I think that would be the perfect way to end a very, very successful period in Tottenham Hotspur's history.
It is. And I feel like these so-called letters, when you look back on it, and it's one of them, be careful what you wish for. Because once all this is over and we look back, maybe coming to the end of next season, and things might be in a little bit of disarray, and send another open letter. We need a new manager.
I baffles me. It baffles me.
But the thing is,
Tottenham, I will say this. It's a very small section of the Tottenham Hotspur fan base. Yeah. If I'm gonna criticise any fan base, it would be Arsenal, because their open letter was equally as ridiculous, equally as meaningless, and this was a large proportion. I think they even got like this. What was the hashtag? Was it We Care Do You? Yeah. I feel like this was trending like in the UK and everything. It baffles me, because they're one of the best run clubs in the country. Again, okay, fair enough. The investment probably isn't there that what you would like, but you're about to spend £72 million on one of the most talented wingers in Europe. Like,
we're not even on Arsenal yet.
Yeah, but I feel like that is the perfect place to move it on from Tottenham and talk about this debate for who is going to get that 4th spot and who's going to be summoned to the Europa League yet again.
I want to just mention on Tottenham, they are in a moment of transition. For example, they've got rid of Kieran Trippier. I know we've been on Tottenham a while now, but they got rid of Kieran Trippier. They've already said, Danny Rose, go and find yourself a different club.
Yeah. This is important to mention, actually.
So there's a real moment of the amount. I don't think they'll sign anyone else in this transfer window, but this is where they've spotted players and they've just gone, we don't need you. And then people are like, oh, but where's the right back options? Walker Peters, Aurier.
That's what I think. I don't think they'll sign a right back. However, I do see them pursuing Ryan Sessegnon.
Yeah, I do. And I just think, when you've got this, you just need to trust in the process. And if there's any person I genuinely trust in a managerial point of view, I know he says he doesn't deal with signings. I think he mentioned today, I'm a head coach, not a manager. I'd trust Pochettino and Levy, because they'll negotiate the best deal. They'll get rid of your players for arguably more than they're worth and get the best plus more out of the young players as well. So that's enough on Tottenham, but just honestly, people are envious of the way your club is run. Just saying.
Yeah. That's a great place to leave it. This battle for top four. This is
the juicy section.
Yeah, this is probably the most interesting part of the Premier League season for me. Let's go in reverse order. Who have you got in your 6th position?
Chelsea Football Club.
Okay.
Not that I don't think Frank Lampard will do well. I think he will. I just think it's another one of them projects. It's a project because of the transfer ban. If there's a man you want to come in, by the way, you don't want a foreign manager coming in that doesn't know the squad. And I like the way he's going to promote youth. Mason Mount has been performing great in pre-season. And I think in bringing the younger players back, Tomori, Zuma, etc. Because Zuma's not been there for a while, but Frank Lampard knows Zuma from his time when he played, I think. No, it might have been a bit later, actually.
No, I think he signed him probably his last 2 seasons.
Yeah,
but yeah, he knows him roughly.
So I do like what's going on. I think getting Pulisic in January was a good idea, but he won't replace Hazard. That's a lot of goals and a lot of creativity gone from this squad. And that is one big worry. Apart from the bringing in a back of Tammy Abraham, should I say, and they've still got Michy Batshuayi, haven't they?
Yeah.
Who I believe personally deserves a chance.
I was going to say there's going to be a lot of pressure on him.
He deserves a chance, genuinely. And obviously they got Kovacic because there was a deal where they could get him permanently. But for me, it's a worry that the loss of Hazard and the inability to bring in anybody at all, it may be detrimental to them, because I do think that they've got a little bit of an aging squad as well. I think David Luiz is aging a little bit now, and
potentially, but I feel that is being countered by the fact that they are bringing through these young, energetic, talented players through. I can see Mason Mount being a focal point of the creative side of Chelsea's side this season, along with Tammy Abraham probably being the first choice number 9 in my opinion. But like you say, there is a few aging heads. I don't agree that they'll finish 6th. I've got them in 5th position. I feel like they're just going to miss out. Just because there's a few players in there without that experience. I don't think Frank Lampard tactically is developed his system to how he would probably have liked to by the time he'd signed for Chelsea. I feel like he probably did need a couple more years with Derby just to really hone his system and develop his managerial skill set before he took the step up to manage Chelsea. But again, it's going to be interesting, similar with Man City. Not to the same level, but how far can they go in Europe would be an interesting point as well for me, because the league, as much as the league is probably the priority, well, definitely the priority, it's going to be interesting to see how Frank Lampard manages in the Champions League.
That also could be, again, to their own detriment, because they can't bring in players to create a massive squad. And I also, don't worry, I get the point. It's not all about bringing in players, and youth should be promoted and stuff like that. And I know we're not talking about Man United, but people are saying, why should we sign Maguire? Let's give Axel Tuanzebe a chance. For example, in that process I saw the other day. But that it makes the point where it's like, with this transfer ban, it gives Chelsea a chance to, what their academy is, literally everyone in their academy is going out on loan, and people have just been begging for years, use these players and stop just sending them out to Vitesse every season. So this is their real... could be prosperous for Chelsea, you never know. Could be a real youthful exuberance around the club. But for me, with the gap of Champions League as well, and their inability to create a thicker squad and a more durable squad for Europe, as well as they did in the Europa League last year, that could be really hurtful, and I think they will finish 6th.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But I mean, if we talk about the strengths of Chelsea, I really do like the midfield. I think the midfield, not only is it very, very good, it's quite deep. So you've got a lot of options in that midfield. Okay, the loss of Fabregas in January didn't help, but you've still got Kante, the forgotten man, Bakayoko, who was returned from his loan, and I believe he signed a new contract, a 1-year extension at Chelsea, which is very interesting. But you've got Barkley, you've got Kovacic, you've got Loftus-Cheek, There's a lot of players who can fit into that midfield three.
How long is Loftus-Cheek out for? Just because I know he did
He,
his
yeah. I mean, he's probably going to be out for the first couple of months.
I feel like we might see him in 2020.
Yeah,
but that I was about to bring up Bakayoko because as much as his first season was a little bit of a disaster, he went out on he went out to Milan last year and impressed.
Yeah,
so I'd like to see these loanee returns come back into the fold. Give him another chance. I feel it's unfair because if you give a foreign player one season in English football, yes, it may be the worst season they've ever had. Look at Salah. He had a rubbish season at Chelsea at first. Time away. Went to the Serie A. It's exactly the same. Went to the Serie A. Came back. Prospered.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him come back into the fold. Him and Jorginho, I think it'd be quite nice. And Kovacic as well.
There's a lot of options in that midfield, and I must just say, whilst we're talking about injured players, I'm very, very excited to see Callum Hudson-Odoi return, hopefully towards the end of the year. And there's reports he signed a new contract, which would be fantastic news for Chelsea.
He needs to be starting when he comes back as well.
I think he will. I think Frank Lampard has told him that he's going to be.
That's the reason he's signed
straight into his plans, and he's going to be definitely one to watch when he comes back. But it's really, really quality.
It's one of them with, for example, as I was mentioned further, the older player, Pedro. He's William's getting older now. You've got Max Alonso as well at left back.
I mean, I don't think he's aging, but I just don't think he's very good.
He was great in his first season.
There's back three. There's a very distinct difference between playing in a back three and a back four, as we were mentioning with Sheffield United earlier.
And because Victor Moses was so successful, and then we've not seen him since.
In fact, Victor Moses has gone out on loan to Fenerbahce, I believe.
Just send him out permanently. He doesn't need to be doing loans at his age now.
Yeah.
But again, as per Laqueta, he's going to be a leader, but again, needs to be replaced at some point by a younger player.
But yeah, I've got him in fifth. You've got him in sixth. We both feel like they're not going to reach Champions League.
No.
Do you want to touch on Manchester United or Arsenal?
I feel you have Arsenal in sixth.
I do have Arsenal.
So wait a second. We did a prediction before this. That means I got every single position of yours correct.
Although, look at what I did first, and I've changed my mind.
Wait, where is it?
I did put Chelsea fourth originally.
Oh, right.
But just before we started recording earlier, before the previous podcast, I did change my mind. So I did have Chelsea fourth, but I trust Manchester United to get it over the line.
I originally had Arsenal in fourth, and then changed it to Manchester United.
So we've both got Manchester United making top four. Let's go with Arsenal because we've both got them to miss out.
Because you've got them in sixth, I've got them in fifth.
Yeah. There's a lot of excitement, isn't there, with the Arsenal fan base at the minute, and it feels like they've pulled the finger out a little bit in terms of transfers. So let's just talk about their transfer activity a little bit.
I'd be more excited if they'd have kept Saliba permanently.
Yeah, okay, that's what you could say.
That's where they needed strengthening the most. As much as I know we're going to get onto him in a minute, a certain £72 million man that will not be named just yet. But I think when you look at that start of this season, the problems with Arsenal, I think their reliance on defensive cover will depend on whether Mustafi goes to Monaco, which is rumoured to be
which actually would be a fantastic deal.
Is it 20 million?
I believe 32 million euros.
Whoa, no way!
Yeah, which I don't know who is doing the scouting work for Monaco, but it's not they're not doing a great job. But if they can manage to get that 32 million euros in, that does allow Arsenal a little bit more to stretch out to get a centre half in immediately.
Manoeuvring the transfer market.
Yeah, because they've obviously spent a lot of money this summer already on Saliba, Ceballos, potentially Tierney, who I would highly rate. I think that could, and again, we're talking about signing of the season earlier. Potentially Tierney, if that is over the line, that could be.
I think it will be by the end of it.
Yeah, and of course Nicolas Pepe, who, as far as anyone's concerned, I think the leak came out last night of the video of him in the kit, so I think it's all official, it's all done, just waiting to be announced. But you have got the signing of Nicolas Pepe on a 5-year deal, which creates a front three which is deadly, really, really deadly.
It is.
Aubameyang, Lacazette and Pepe.
Quick question: better or worse than Aubameyang, Lacazette, Zaha?
Better, in my opinion.
I
There's
agree.
more goals in it. Zaha works in that Crystal Palace system because he gets the ball up the pitch. He gets his goals, but for me, he's more of a transition player. If you're playing on the counter, Zaha's a great player to go to. Whereas Pepe, for me, is your typical goal scoring winger.
Pick the ball up, drive. I think.
Yeah,
And it's mental because Zaha last season 10 goals, 10 assists. That's a great season in the Premier League.
yeah.
But then you look at Nicolas Pepe's stats. He's the only person to get 20 plus goals and 10 plus assists with one other person.
Messi.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable season,
If
and I won't take this counter argument that it's a farmers' league, because the French league, admittedly, isn't as good as the Premier League. However, you've seen so many good talents come from the French league.
Well,
It's a lazy argument to say, it's a farmers' league.
So basically, Mbappe actually isn't that good.
Yeah,
He's just in a really bad... Bring him in a cold Tuesday night in Stoke and his pace will be zero. But no, you see, he was the second top goal scorer to Mbappe. So you look at them two records, he's behind Messi and Mbappe. That is quite good company.
Yeah. So that kind of completes Arsenal's attack. If you go into the midfield, they brought in Dani Ceballos, who you could see as a more of a like for like for Aaron Ramsey.
Yes.
They're different kinds of players. I think Dani Ceballos brings in a little bit more dynamism, whereas with Ramsey you've got a little bit more steel, a bit more tenacity in the tackle.
Yeah.
Ceballos is more creative. He's got a better eye for goal, in my opinion.
So it's a great... If you look at that team, it's a great trio in midfield. And I know, I'm going to mention it. Torreira,
Yeah.
Ceballos, and again, everyone hates him, but I like him. Granit Xhaka.
Granit Xhaka has his use.
That is a good trio.
If you look at the amount of deep progressions that Granit Xhaka gets, and deep progressions and his long forward passes, it's higher than anyone in the Premier League.
I was gonna say,
so he has his uses. I don't feel like he's what he's sold as is a defensive midfielder. I don't believe he is that. I think he's much more of someone who's going to take the ball off the defence and get it forward.
You saw in the early stages of last season when you paired him and Torreira together, and Torreira did the dirty work, and Xhaka picked up the ball, and yes, sometimes he passes it sideways, but at least, and sometimes yes, he makes mistakes, and he makes more mistakes than the average midfielder when he's passing.
His passing is more risky than the average midfielder. So he's not going to have a high completion rate.
Exactly, and when you paired him with Torreira, that's when they went on such a long unbeaten streak. And
Exactly,
people just say, "Oh, but how incredible was Torreira? Forgetting Xhaka existed." Like, I admit, I think personally he gets made a scapegoat, which I think it might offend some people, but I think Arsenal fans love a scapegoat.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think you put that midfield of Xhaka, Torreira, and Ceballos, and even adding Ozil, but I know Unai Emery isn't the biggest fan of Ozil. But he when he's on his day, Ozil's fantastic. This Arsenal team, for me, is so flip of a coin.
Yeah.
You get the best of Arsenal, and they could easily be in the top four and get that fourth spot. You get the worst of Arsenal, they genuinely could finish seventh.
I totally agree. If you look at the defensive options, it's poor. It really is.
It is.
You've got your club captain, who is just decided he's had enough. He wants to go back to France, which is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. What example does that set to the new signings? You've just signed an 18-year-old defender in William Saliba. What message does that say if your club captain is going, I've had enough?
It's embarrassing that he's going so actively to seek a move, and then goes, yeah, but I want to move for free. Well, no, because you're under a contract.
Exactly.
That's how contracts work. Like, seriously, you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and just go, I think Arsenal will be willing to sell for genuine under 10 million, literally about 5 million.
Yeah.
That's all they're asking for. I don't think Arsenal have been untowards in this deal and gone, well, if you give us 25 million for a 33-year-old player, no.
No, not at all.
But literally forcing Arsenal going, let me move for free, no. Not in this current day. You can't.
Yeah. If you look at, again, the central defensive options, you've got Mustafi, who high profile, joke of a centre half.
35 million, their fifth highest person before the signing of Pepe.
Yeah, it really is poor, and I like Socrates. He had quite a solid season last season, but he needs a solid partner next to him. Otherwise,
that was my thing. Is Socrates is great. It's that other set, and
you're looking at Rob Holding after that.
Mavropanos,
who hasn't really proven himself.
He's been injured.
He has been injured, but he's not had the opportunity to prove himself. So I can't trust him to be that central defensive partner.
Well, they're both Greek, so I mean, I don't know if you've looked at Greece. Maybe they have a really solid back four. I don't know, but
I like Bellerin at right back. I think he's not a problem area, but if you look at left back, the fact that they're targeting Tierney so heavily is a testament to how poor defensively Monreal and Kolasinac have been.
I think if there's one out of them, for example, this is the thing, they've got three left backs, and as you rightly said, Bellerin is fantastic in right back. There's no one else.
Maitland-Niles
he's a centre midfielder.
Yeah, but I feel like he has transitioned well into a right back.
Oh, he has. But for example, if you say where he normally plays centre mid. He's the only right back they've got.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd argue that Bellerin and Maitland-Niles is a good two good options to have at right back.
I think as much excitement as there is around Arsenal, I would like them to get covering right back because Lichtsteiner was horrendous.
Yeah,
I think they need a covering right back and a proper starting centre back.
I'd argue if they want to be top four, they need two centre backs.
Yeah, no. I could see it because obviously Socrates is their only good one, but I do think when Rob Holding was in last year, he was really impressive until he got injured.
Yeah, it depends because it was quite a serious injury. I don't know how he's going to return and whether he's going to return to top form or not because, like you say, he was playing with a lot of confidence and it was a serious injury.
It's interesting because Arsenal have a lot of deadwood, a lot more deadwood from the past process with Wenger and the mixed ownership, and now it's obviously under Stan Kroenke permanently. But they've just been crying out to have a summer like they're having this summer. If they get Kieran Tierney, admittedly, I think the spending will have to stop there because they had a limited budget as it is, or they said they had a limited budget. And I like what they've done because they don't have to really pay any money for Ceballos. They've got him for a season and they only have to play his loan deals. Pepe is going to be done in instalments. Saliba, the chunk of that fee is being paid next year when he genuinely actually arrives at the club, which is unfortunate for them at the moment because they still need another centre-back. But I think after Tierney comes in, it'll be a good summer, but I do think their defensive frailties will be exposed upon, and hence why I've dropped them out of my top four.
Yeah. I think that sums up the situation at Arsenal perfectly. They're going to score goals, but they're going to ship a lot of goals as well.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with these young players: Joe Willock, Eddie Nketiah, Reece Nelson.
I do want to see more of them.
I do.
I feel Willock really impressed when he came on in the Europa League final. Probably should have scored a couple.
I was going to say, Joe else impressed me in the Europa League final. I've completely forgot to mention Alex Iwobi.
Alex Iwobi came on and scored a screamer. But it wasn't just that. He genuinely raised the level of performance of a lot of Arsenal players
when
he
came on, there was a real switch until obviously Chelsea got their inevitable, I won't say winning goal, they'd already won it at that point. And it's, again, I could go on about Arsenal forever, but it's interesting to see how these elder players will get on. Ozil, Mkhitaryan, will Mkhitaryan step up? Because he's never really stepped up in English football. I like Mkhitaryan. I loved him at Dortmund, and when he came to England, he's just been too inconsistent.
He's going to be a useful squad player, I think. I don't think he's going to be in that starting 11.
But can you be paying that much on wages for squad players?
I think they'll be looking to get rid of him this time next season.
And I think
they've been actively trying to get rid of Mesut Ozil this summer as well. There's no one to take on that level of wage.
That's why I think, for example, Ramsey's going. Sanchez went for free. It's hard because they paid so much for these. The thing was, Ozil signed a new contract not too long ago. It's when Sanchez left, so I don't know how long that deal was.
I think it's 2021.
They're in a tough spot because, as they've talked about the limited budget, that may very well be because you're shelling out so much on the wages.
Yeah, I agree. And I've got Arsenal in 6th. You've got me in 5th.
Which means our same
we
fourth
both
position.
Have Manchester United in 4th. Come on, the boys.
I did originally have Arsenal, but because of their defensive frailties, I've swapped.
Yeah, and Manchester United, it's an interesting one because it was so chalk and cheese last season. You could cut it into Mourinho and Solskjaer, but you can cut Solskjaer's reign into chalk and cheese as well, because he came in and he was absolutely fantastic. They were playing brilliant attacking football. They were blowing teams away. And then after the PSG match, it seemed as though the players looked unfit. They looked tired. They didn't really want to be there.
I feel like that they looked at that as, that's our season crowning moment. They were never going to go better than that.
Potentially, but I still think I definitely think they could have got top 4. If they kept that level of performance up, they would have got top 4.
Anyone could have got top 4 out of them 3 last year. Genuinely,
one
wanted it.
It was just so poor, that race, which I think he's going to spur these sides on. So I think it's going to be a higher quality race this time round. But for Manchester United, I feel like this pre-season has had to be very intense because a lot of those players are unfit. Well, they were unfit. They might be a lot fitter now. They've brought in energy with Daniel James and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, 2 youthful pairs of legs. Energetic, quick, effective. Especially Wan-Bissaka, a problem area right back. Ashley Young, heavily criticised last season. But they've sorted that issue out, and potentially for the next 10 years they've sorted that issue out with Wan-Bissaka. The worry is they've not done enough in the market. Obviously they need a centre-back. It looks as though Harry Maguire will be heading to Old Trafford. Bruno Fernandes has been heavily linked, and he's been scouted for a long time and talked about all summer long by United fans. And in the last couple of days, Paulo Dybala in a swap deal with Romelu Lukaku, which is very interesting.
I think out of the 3 there, I think we was talking about this earlier, and I said, where would you play Dybala? And you said play him on the wing, but I said, he's kind of better in behind that striker, like a second striker. And we said that he doesn't play an attacking midfielder, but Bruno Fernandes is an attacking midfielder. I know he can play centre mid, and that's great.
For me, it's totally different. I think for me, Dybala fits in the system less than Bruno Fernandes. I think Bruno Fernandes will be fantastic on the right side of that midfield. Whereas if you want to fit Dybala into the starting 11, he doesn't really have a spot in that 4-3-3 because he's not going to be the number 1 striker because that's been assigned to Rashford. He's not really a right winger, but that's the kind of place you'd be looking to put him at because they don't play a secondary striker or a number 10.
I think,
but I think Bruno Fernandes would fit in perfectly into that right hand side of the midfield 3.
I think it could work with Dybala on the right and Martial on the left, because if you think they're not going to whip balls into the box for Rashford, but if they can cut inside and thread a through ball or cut inside and shoot, I think that will probably be the way it'll be deployed. But my worry is, for example, if they in a world they get all 3 signings over the line, I don't think they will. I think they'll get Maguire and Dybala. I think Fernandes.
I disagree. I think it'll be Maguire and Fernandes.
Well, either
way. But I also agree that they won't get all 3 over the line. The board aren't competent enough to do that.
You've got to think, right, when you look at United, Pogba has been criticised, and people said all I want him to do is play a more attacking, advanced role than what he does. Instead of trying to be deployed as, I remember under Mourinho, he just deployed as a defensive midfielder and whatever else. You've got to think Bruno Fernandes can play on the right side of centre midfield. He is so much better going forward than he is defensively. That nullifies the ability for Pogba to do the exact same thing, leaving you with 1 defensive midfielder in Matic.
This has been a huge debate amongst the Manchester United fan base this summer. However, if you look at Bruno Fernandes' defensive numbers, you actually see that he's quite good at breaking the play up and dispatching the ball. So as much as you can say it looks on paper it looks a little bit imbalanced, that midfield 3. If you have Matic or McTominay or Pereira or Fred in that holding role alongside Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba, I feel like it still can work, especially if you're bringing in an Aaron Wan-Bissaka who can cover for any frailties that the midfield may have defensively. However, I wrote an article the other day about Manchester United's midfield, and I thought, well, as much as Bruno Fernandes brings goals, brings assists, brings creativity to the midfield, I don't feel like that's what they need. They've lost Ander Herrera and Marouane Fellaini in the last 6 months. surely you need a more defensive midfielder, a more tenacious midfielder to replace that. And I thought there's a player who's got a £43 million buyout clause who could fit that bill perfectly. And I said Thomas Partey of Atletico Madrid could play that role perfectly in the right hand side of midfield, like we were talking about with the box to box kind of can do both kind of midfielder. That would be the more balanced signing. However, I think Bruno Fernandes is the sexier signing because he has the goals and the assists and the creativity.
The more flair.
Yeah.
Sign.
Yeah.
You know, sexy signing, if you want to call it a sexy signing, go for it. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Dybala, sexy signing. What a handsome man.
Yeah, but I just think with me for Manchester United, I don't know about you, but if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can get the lads playing the kind of free-flowing attacking game that he had in his first 15 games and prolong that across the season by having a more intense fitness regime, I just feel like everything's set up to have a successful campaign and finish in the top four.
I worry with United about the constant peaks and troughs, which is what last season was really made up of. And when you're as inconsistent as that, as the people fighting for the top four, this is what makes this race so interesting, is it all depends for me on consistency. And I feel with the signings United have made, I personally, for example, as I've said to you, Maguire's a done deal. I think we're both going that Maguire's going to be...
Yeah. And partnering Lindelof, all of a sudden, your central defence looks a lot stronger than it did last season already.
And exactly, you have Smalling on the bench. I don't think Jones is capable anymore. I think Smalling and Bailly as substitutes to them too.
And Tuanzebe.
Oh, of course, like we said, mentioned earlier. Of course. But that's looking a lot strong. It's amazing how one signing can make it look so much stronger.
And Wan-Bissaka at right back, all of a sudden, United's defence, that's competent. That works. Shaw, great left back.
Yes.
De Gea in goal, best in the world. Your centre backs, you've got two very strong centre backs. All of a sudden, if you can get that Maguire deal over the line, your defence, you don't really have to worry about that anymore. It's about fixing that midfield, and they're going to score goals with the front three, whether Dybala signs or Bruno Fernandes signs anyway.
Well, to be honest,
they're always going to score goals.
You may say, actually, that Dybala might not play that second striker, because if, for example, you take out Rashford, because you've already swapped Lukaku, that sub-striker might be Dybala, but I'm sure he's not coming to be a substitute striker. But Mason Greenwood,
oh, I cannot get enough of this kid. This kid's going to be a mainstay in that United side for 15 years.
Well, this is the thing, and if you think probably Dybala may get, I know I'm talking about him a lot, but to play on the left or right wing or whatever, and then you've got Dan James as a backup to that, you're looking with the mixture of top quality players, Pogba, De Gea, Maguire, we'll say, Dybala if they sign him, Fernandes if they sign him, mixed in with that youth. Martial's relatively young still.
23.
Rashford, Dan James,
McTominay.
Fred
Pereira.
Fred needs to, is he still young, Fred? He's about
25, 26.
Yeah. I feel Fred needs to adapt to this season, but the mix and the blend they've got, it's a nice time at United at the moment. And
I feel like it's only going to get better.
Yes.
Because if you look, McTominay 22, Dan James 21. You've got the three young lads from the under 23s, Greenwood, Chong and Gomez, all under the age of 20. You've got Rashford, Martial. There's so many young, exciting players there. Shaw's only 23. So you've got so many young players who can not only be good players now, but can improve in the future. And if you can just add...
Tuanzebe.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many. You've got Dean Henderson now getting Premier League experience. It's an exciting time. There's two ways to look at it. You can go, well, there was the absolute garbage that you saw at times last season. Static Matic at the base of that midfield. Ashley Young. Jones and Smalling, the pair of clowns at times. But
De Gea didn't have his best season.
Yeah. But if you can get these players just playing decent brand of football, for me, they're a better side than Chelsea and they're a better side than Arsenal.
And again, I think it does depend on, for example, Solskjaer hasn't had the longest time in management and he isn't the most experienced manager.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like Lampard. How I think tactically, Unai Emery is a better manager in this race for the top 4. So, for example, if it's down to tactics, Arsenal are getting in the top 4. If it's down to player quality, I think United are getting in the top 4. So it's interesting to see what... Solskjaer's probably got the best mentor in the world in Alex Ferguson, because if he needs help, he can call Alex Ferguson, give us a lift.
Yeah.
So, but I am interested to see if they are losing, can he make them tweaks and them changes in the way he forms his team to get back into a game and nick a 1-1?
This is exactly what I was going to say. Solskjaer's philosophy on football is brilliant. He's got a very good brand of football that we saw last season so frequently when in his first couple of months in charge. My worry is, does he have a plan B?
Exactly.
If you are struggling in a game, if you can't break a defence down, do you have the option to change something? I'm not sure, but hopefully he can prove me wrong.
I was going to say
because I've never wanted a manager to succeed more who isn't a Sunderland manager than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because he was one of those players growing up where I used to love watching him. He's just a natural goal scorer. He's United through and through. He could have left so many times to go and play for Tottenham and get first team football every week. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to stay and play for Manchester United, play for the badge, play for the fans. I think he's United. He's the perfect man for the job. It's just a case of whether he can have that plan B. But I've got him in the top 4 this season. So providing the signings get over the line that need to be made.
As we say, there's a lot of unknowns, because I'd say we'll talk about just these 3 teams outside the top 4. Frank Lampard has never managed in the Premier League. Great player, never managed. Solskjaer's had 6 months or so. So he's a bit of an unknown. There's a few unknown players. It will be a really exciting race for that top 4. I don't think it'll be over till the end of the last day.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited to see not only how this race goes, but the whole Premier League season goes. And I can't wait for it all to kick off next Friday, I believe it is.
It's Liverpool versus Norwich.
Yep, that's going to be an extremely exciting game. But this is it for Thursday Team Talk. We'll run through our whole 20.
Yeah.
If we want to.
Just to conclude.
To conclude, yeah. So if you want to go first.
Yes. We'll start from number 1.
Yep.
Man City, Liverpool, Spurs, United, Arsenal and Chelsea get in them Europa League spots. Everton in 7th. Wolves, West Ham, Leicester. Watford, Bournemouth, Southampton and Villa. Then Newcastle, then Burnley as we move towards the bottom of the leagues. Norwich, Palace, Brighton, and finishing rock bottom, Sheffield United.
And I've gone with Manchester City as champions, Liverpool, Tottenham and Chelsea, Manchester United making up the top 4, Chelsea and Arsenal in the Europa League, Leicester in 7th, Everton, West Ham and Wolves making up the top half, Bournemouth, Watford, Southampton, Burnley, Villa, Crystal Palace and Sheffield United just staving off relegation, and Brighton, Newcastle and Norwich joining the Championship in 2021 season. And that concludes our Premier League predictions for the 1920 season. Kieran, it's been a pleasure doing this podcast.
It has. It's been a pleasure and long. I'm off for a sleep.
It's been absolutely fantastic. And can't wait for the action to start. We'll be back on Monday with another podcast. We're not sure what we'll be covering just yet. Or we'll probably be building up to the fixtures, actually.
Well, it's mental. It'll be a pre- and post-match Monday.
Yeah,
because the Championship will kick off.
Yeah, we'll reflect on the EFL, build up to the Premier League season.
Who's ready for Monday's 6-hour podcast?
Yeah, it's going to be great. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at AllToPlayForPod. Follow me at Charlie Horner _.
At Keylawler, so KIELAWLER.
Yeah, and keep up to date with everything that we're doing. And thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you on Monday.